and welcome back to Food for Life. Julie and I are so happy to have you guys this week. It is still a very cold week here in New England, and we are just so happy to warm ourselves up on the inside and welcome our guest. And you know what? She's another E360 host, so I hope after you hear her story, you tune into her show as well.
She's our family, so we love having our family on the show, so we're looking forward to today, for sure. But yes, we're all staying warm today. It is a freezing day out, and snow and rain, and we're just very happy to be in a very happy, warm space where we can just be very animated on the inside, so...
Oh, I know. I think I'm over winter already, and it's only February.
Oh no, I like winter because I like to have like one day that I'm snowed in the house and I'm stuck here. That's like one of my favorite parts about winter. But I don't know if we're gonna get that or not this year. But other than that, yeah, I think I'm ready for a sunny day on the beach as well.
Yeah, I think that's why everyone escapes in February to someplace warm.
All right. I think we're snowbirds at heart.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what I am, but I don't know.
We'd like to know what you guys are, though. So come find us on our Instagram at Food for Life TV on Instagram.
Which I just had up underneath our faces.
Yeah, so we would like to know, are you a winter person? Are you a summer person? What do you like to do? Come talk to us on there. We'd love to hear from you, and we love our Food for Life family. So come find us on Instagram.
Okay. With that being said, let's welcome our new host friend, Leks Vucko, which I pray to God I just said that right. She is the host of another E360 show, but I will let her tell you all about it when we welcome her. Hi, Leks. How are you?
Hey, guys. Good to be here.
Leks lives somewhere warmer than we do.
Yes, I like warmer climates. I spend too much time in winter. Like, no, I can't. My bones get cold, and I'm like, ugh. But now we're thinking about going back to some seasons, so we'll see.
Yeah. The thing I like about winter is that your hair always looks good because there's like no humidity and it's dry. So it's like good hair weather. So I'm a fan of that.
Except for the static.
That's true. That's very true. Very true.
So Leks, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell everyone what you do?
Yeah. The words I use to describe myself is like a holistic health guru or person. Because my background really starts from fitness 20 years ago when I was boxing and kickboxing, and I realized I don't want to make a career out of that. And so I went to the gym, and I loved what it did for me mentally and physically and emotionally. I was like, I want to share this with the world. And so I became a trainer. And then as I did that, I learned so much about nutrition. And I was like, why are some people still struggling? Let's talk about nutrition. And so I started really studying nutrition and implementing that in my training. And in 2010, I opened my fitness studio in Nashville, Tennessee. I grew it. I ran it for 8 years. We did have like workshops on nutrition and all of that, like healthy foods kind of stuff. That's also yummy because I believe you have to enjoy your food. And then as I was like looking for answers for myself and going my own journey and looking for answers for my clients, like why are some people still struggling? We started doing meditations, and we started doing this whole like other part of fitness or wellness that nobody talks about in fitness. That's like, how do you sleep? How are you managing your thoughts? How are you managing your stress? And we started implementing these things, and I started seeing more people getting results. And then I competed in bodybuilding for a few years, and that was really unhealthy. That's a very unhealthy sport, in my opinion. And I got to binging after that. It's called refeeding syndrome, where you just can't stop eating. And it was horrible at the time, but it helps me understand people. When they're like, oh, well, what do you know? You're in fitness. And I'm like, yeah, I do know what it's like to lose your mind to food. And it became so obsessive. And that's when I really saw the power of workouts and nutrition, and then really the mindset piece, the psychology behind it. So I sold my studio in 2018. And I went back online a couple of years later, and now I do coaching and I do a membership where I combine these three things.
That's amazing. Now, where are you from originally? Since we were talking about winter and stuff, and I know you come from someplace that definitely has winter.
Yeah, I come from Eastern Europe. Serbia, it's a really small country in Europe, and it does have 4 seasons. And then I moved to the US when I was either 16 or 17, and I stayed for my whole adult life in the US.
What was that like? Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead, Jen.
I
Sorry.
was just gonna say, I'd love to hear like what was it like the winters, like in Serbia, and what was it like what was it like growing up there before you came to the U.S.?
Oh, we can do a whole episode on that.
Oh,
But it was like everything was normal, right? Like you go to school, you do your homework, you play with your friends, whatever, right? Up until, um, well, I don't know how old I was really when the war in the country started, but I was in the middle of the war. So we had some effects of that, and that's when things started shifting. But again, like me being a teenager at the time, my life was about the same. My dad, when it comes to like the healthy stuff, my dad did pay attention to nutrition, although he never explained it like that. We had a little bit of land outside of the city, and he made sure that we're not spraying any of that. And I was like, I don't even know what that means, right? But like I was eating that food, that's what I grew up on. And then I loved playing. Like, when they say like, when you grow up, what did you want to be when you were a kid? I'm like, I just wanted to run around and play. And like looking at fitness, I'm like, I'm kind of playing around, That's really what it comes down to. And then my whole life started changing. I literally remember the date, September 13th, 1998, when I got hit by a car, and it just like spiraled this whole a list of events that took me different places. And then that's when the bombing started in Serbia, and that's when I started moving all over, and that's how I ended up in the United States. To make a really short version out of a crazy story, I don't mind sharing it. I just know that the show is not about that.
So. Oh wow, okay.
Well, it's your story to tell, so you can always share whatever you want, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
So you're from there originally. What got you into the world of fitness and wellness? Did the accident propel that, or did something else?
Well, I was always I don't want to say athletic because I never played any organized sports, but I was a tomboy. So we were running around all the time, jumping the fences, jumping over the walls, which is like super scary now that I'm a mom to think about where I was, what I was doing. Really scary. But that was like the first introduction to it. And of course, in school, I didn't like school. I loved physical education. I loved the lunchtime when we were running around, and we were actually not sitting down eating lunch. We were just like running around. But then when I moved to the US, I'm going to say that I had so much anger stored in me, which looking back, everything's 2020 in hindsight, but I didn't know that at the time. And I needed a channel for that. So I started kickboxing and boxing, like training with like real fighters. And I was like, this is just too much. Now, a part of the issue was that my ankle was injured in that car wreck. And that did prevent me from really knowing my potential there. But I never let that stop me. And so I just realized that I don't have a fighter's heart. I'm not going to get in the ring and hit somebody over and over again on purpose. I'm more like, I'm so sorry, right? Like that I hate you. So that's how I found a channel to lower and manage my anger. And then I went to a gym because I thought, okay, this got to be easier in my joints because I'm not a fighter. I'm not going to be making a career out of this. And I went to a local gym, and I still had a full-time job at the time, and I just loved it. I started experimenting with exercises, with weights, with bands, with body weight exercises, started switching on my workouts, and it changed my body, it changed my mindset, it changed my whole mental, emotional state. And that's when I thought, I have to show the world how awesome this is. I want to help people do this.
So what was it like competing in fitness competitions, and how did that lead to your unhealthy habits?
So you go on really extreme dieting when you're about to compete. For about, depends on a person and depends what they're going to tell you, about 3 months on average before competition, you start heavy, hardcore dieting. And I didn't know about the psychology of things at that time, but this was a huge lesson. It was like chicken breast and like asparagus 6 meals a day, or 5 meals a day. The first one is something with oatmeal. And they're small meals, and you're just like constantly feeling deprived and like waiting for the next meal. And you start seeing the difference in your body. Like I had a six pack. I thought I looked great but the body really thinks that it's slowly dying. Like it's deprived of everything, right? You're eating the same stuff. You're not enjoying your food. You're training extra, you're training twice a day. And so there's this conflict of like, oh my God, I really look good. I have a six pack. That's so awesome. And really feeling horrible, like low energy, thyroid issues, not sleeping well, obsessed with food. And when I tell you obsessed, I mean, me and the girls that were competing in that team, we would go on Instagram and just watch pictures of people making food all the free time. That's how the body works, though. This is not like, oh my God, you were going so crazy. The body, one thing that the body is always going to do is fight for survival. That's what it's wired to do. Like, that's the primary thing that the body and the mind are concerned with. So when we go on extreme dieting, the body does everything to bring the food back in, which is the whole obsession and feeling horrible and thinking about food all the time and just making you feel just horrible. Really, I was just tired all the time. As if someone woke you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you don't know where you are. That's kind of how I was. I couldn't memorize things well. I couldn't remember people's names. It was just really bad. And so afterwards, so that's not even the bad part. It's after the competition, you're pretty much allowed to eat whatever. And they tell you, like, go have your big cheat meal. Well, the problem is when the food was, you were so deprived of food. And that for last few days before competition, you start messing with salt intake and water intake, which totally messes up your whole body and the whole minerals and electrolytes. So we go into what's called refeeding syndrome. The body just makes you eat all the time because it's trying to gain all that body fat back. And that's where I felt lost because it was like anything. I remember I would go from my fitness studio to my house, which is a mile away. And I would already make a decision. There's a gas station in the way. I'm going to go and get whatever, Reese's Pieces, like whatever was there. And I couldn't even wait to get home. I had to eat it. And this is so, used to be embarrassing to talk about this, but I really want people to know that not everything that looks healthy is healthy. Because we now look at these people with six packs or really tiny bodies or whatever, and then we think, oh, that's what I want. And then we strive for that, and we don't realize we're really doing damage to our body. Because I gained my weight back and then some, and it took quite a while to get back to what's my normal.
So your body was basically being tricked into a state of survival. So does that mean, were you malnourished in a way? Or was your body just thinking it was?
So it's not necessarily malnourished, could be, but there's more of the psychology to it. I dropped the weight, I dropped the body fat too fast. That's alarming for the body because we have something what's called weight set point. That's the weight that my body is currently at that it's happy with. I don't really easily gain or lose weight from that weight. It's fluctuating a few pounds, but that's about it. Now, if I go extreme, the body just goes, we got to go back to our weight set point. So it's going to make me, this is why people diet for 2-3 weeks. They can last for 2-3 weeks, maybe 4. And then as soon as the diet is done, they just go right back to how it was because the body's like, we got to go back. And then it makes us gain a little bit more. So now instead of 170, I'm 173, right? Or 175. And then I'm going to diet again. I'm going to get to 160 for a day. And then I'm going to go back to 180. And now my new weight set point is 180. Where when we lose weight or drop body fat, strategically and slowly, we give our body enough time to reset the weight set point.
Oh, wow.
And so when the new set point comes, sometimes you hear people say, oh, I lost weight, now I'm hitting the plateau. Let it be the plateau. Keep doing what you're doing. The body is resetting. And of course, in the meantime, the other things are shifting too. You're changing your own identity, your own belief of what's possible for you. Your taste buds are changing. So the healthier food is going to taste even better for you, where processed food is not. So there's a lot of things shifting. But the weight set point is like the main way that I can describe to people what happens with the body and why you feel like, I always gain the weight back. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's not you.
Julie, do you have a question for her?
Yeah, no, I would love to hear about, like, for someone that's like just starting out, like, Like, what is the easiest thing you can be like, all right, if you're on this journey to become like healthier and better, like what is the first thing you tell people to start with?
The very first thing I put my clients on is a 7-day mental diet. They have to start observing their thoughts. They have to know where they're starting because we bully ourselves. If we don't pay attention to how we talk to ourselves, we bully ourselves. So just like the previous example, I always gain the weight back after dieting. What's wrong with me? It's diminishing the way I feel about myself to myself. And I'm the only one that knows how many times I said I was going to do something and didn't do it. So I don't trust myself. Nobody knows how many times I lied to myself. I do, right? So I don't trust myself. So now that I start observing my thoughts, I can realize, oh my God, I'm really bullying myself here. Let me change the way I talk to myself. Oh, wow, I've been really thinking about food or weight or whatever it is. Because when we think about weight, we get weight. The brain gives us more of what we want. So even though it's weight loss that we want, we tend to think about the weight and we fear gaining more weight. When we think about health, we start changing our approach, and the approach to health leads to self-love, right? Like, what am I going to do for me today that's good for me, that's going to have long-term effects rather than instant gratification? So the very first thing is a 7-day mental diet where they have to, is a little booklet and I have a video, and then I get them on that diet where they just observe their thoughts throughout the week and kind of take a note, whether they message me or take a note of, wow, I've been really mean to myself. And we all know that. It's just like a whole nother level of awareness when they do this, because they go, I didn't know it's that bad. And I always tell people, we're with ourselves. I'm with me 24/7. Nobody spends as much time with me as me. Not my husband, not my kid, not pets. If people have pets, I spend that much time with me. So if there was another person next to me 24/7, we better make sure we have a really good relationship, or that's going to be a really long ride, right? Or we may argue occasionally, but we know how to resolve issues and really have a great time together. So that's why I always tell people, like, work on that relationship, becoming your own best friend, becoming that advocate for yourself. How would you protect your friend from a bully? Protect yourself like that.
Oh, Julie, I can't hear you.
I was going to say that's a really good starting point, so I'm really glad that you shared that.
You know, a friend of mine is a life coach, and she says, you know, what if you walk through a crowd saying all the things that run through your head, like all those thoughts you have about yourself all day? She goes, people would look at you like you're going to need to go in a padded room, because think about how mean and how crazy all those thoughts are that you have, and you would never say that out loud to somebody.
No, and think about the psychology of bullying, right? When somebody's bullied at school, we're not like, oh, don't worry, they're just going to get tough. They're totally going to be fine. We jump on that to prevent that from happening. We do anything that we can to help the child that was being bullied, and obviously teach the bully not to do that, right? But the first thing is get them away from the bully, because we know the effects of that. But if we do that to ourselves all day long and we don't even notice it, we're so used to it that we don't even notice it anymore. How are we going to get to level of success in any area of our life? Again, if you had a bully next to you all the time, you would not be expected to succeed. You'd be told, get away from that person. Like, you have to change what you're hearing. So that's why I find that a mental diet is like the foundation, the very first step to everything.
So why do you think wellness starts with our mindset? Like, you're talking about the diet, you're talking about how that starts. So once we start being kinder to ourselves, do you think we are more open to the physical changes our body needs to get to the goals we want?
So let me answer this with a question. I usually ask my clients this. If nothing changed, they come to me for weight loss or, something like that, getting in shape. If nothing on your body changed, but you ended up feeling happy and great and confident and sexy, and you felt like anything you put on just feels great. And when you walk in a room, you radiate that room and you're just smiling all the time. Would the body image, would the shape of your body matter? And the answer is always no, not really. Because it's not about the shape of our body or the weight. It's about how we feel about it. And when we feel bad about it or about ourselves, again, psychologically, we're diminishing the way we feel overall about ourselves, and therefore we're not going to take the proper action. But if I come from an approach of truly loving myself and caring for myself and taking care of the future Lex, I'm going to work out now, even though I don't really feel like it, because I know that the long-term effect is amazing. And even though I don't feel like it in the moment and I skip that workout, by the end of the day, I'm not going to feel great about myself because I lied to myself again. Where even if I don't feel like it and I do 5 or 10 minutes, or I have my clients do 10 squats, I start thinking, oh, I can trust myself and this kind of feels good. And again, it's slowly changing my image about me and my identity and what I believe is possible because I'm starting to build that momentum.
I can just hear the way that you're talking through your thoughts, and I'm like, she must be the most amazing mom, like explaining this to your kid about like, do this, be kind to yourself, and go there. So I imagine that your child is extremely mentally strong. So I really appreciate you for having this thought process. But
Oh,
really,
yeah,
what
it
got
makes me
you?
cry.
Aw, what got you interested in holistic fitness, and what got you into this whole field? I know that you said that you were hit by a car and you had some other things happen, but really, like, how did you know that this was your purpose?
Um, I think the first few times I realized it is when I got testimonials from people, right? Like, just like you made me cry with the mom thing. It made me cry when people are like, this changed my life, or you changed my life. I'm like, it's not me, it's the things you did. I just guided you to it. And then the more things that I went through in my life and the more I've learned to heal myself, and we're all work in progress, okay? Like we fail daily, but I've learned to lovingly pick myself up, right? Not shame myself. And the way that affected me, and then I did this with my clients, and the way that affected them, then I was like, if this affected you so much, what's the trickle effect? So now another mom that I can help, she's different mom, she's a different spouse, she's a different neighbor. And then what's the effect of that? And that's when I thought, and let me tell you, there's been many times when I doubted it, right? Because the last thing people think about is health, right? Like it's so easy to sell somebody into I'm going to help you earn $1 million in the 90 days, right? Like a lot of people are so money conscious and like they're really paying attention to their business and their money and like finances, but they're really neglecting their health. And for the people that come to me and we start working on that, the health part first and their fitness and how they feel and how they think and how they sleep, then it starts changing all the other things. So they were already, honestly, like the first few testimonials that I got were like, oh, okay, I got to keep doing. I got to remove all the doubt behind what I'm doing and just got to put one foot in front of the other.
I would love to know, like, do you have a moment that you were like, this is it and this is why I'll do? Was there something that like one person said that you were just like, aw, like, or just was there like a light bulb moment that you had with one of these testimonials that just made you see something that maybe you didn't even see in yourself?
That's a good way to put it. It was helping me see something I didn't see in myself, right? Like where I talk about self-love and that whole approach. But we all, pretty much all, maybe there's a few individuals that don't, but we all have that internal struggle of, am I enough? Is what I'm doing worth doing, right? Like all these things. And then when I got those first few testimonials, it was like, there's definitely something to what I'm doing. And I think just like anybody, again, when my client would come and say, oh, you did this for me. I'm like, I don't want to take all the credit. I'll take some credit. I will, right? I guided you. But at the same time, you were willing to make the changes. So what I'm doing is, yes, I'm receiving, right? I want to receive that acknowledgement, but I also want you to learn to acknowledge yourself. And again, that's that whole trickle effect. And now the way I also describe it is when you feel fulfilled and when you work on you and you feel good, you're like a candle lighting other candles. It doesn't diminish your light. You're just helping the world be a brighter place. But when you're not taking care of you, you're starting to give from a place of sacrifice. I have to take from me to give to you, which over time creates resentment. And then it has a completely different effect because you're constantly feeling like you're not enough, nobody's acknowledging you, and you're not getting enough. And this is why I've learned to fill my cup first. And again, when I get those testimonials, I'm like, okay. Because it happens usually like at the time of doubt, right? I post social media stuff. I'm like, oh, who's watching this, And then I'll get a DM or a message, be like, "Oh my God, like you inspired me. I started going to the gym," whatever the DM is or message. And I'm like, okay, confirmation, just keep doing what you're doing. And it just, to me, naturally comes easy. When people talk about nutrition, to me, it's just 2 + 2, right? When people talk about systems and marketing, I'm a little slower there, right? And that's another sign that you're doing something that's right for you, because it comes as a play for you.
So I want to ask you, you talk about all the mindset, you talk about the health, and we talked about you being a mom and all the things you teach your son. You and I have talked, and we talk about food and the things you teach your son about food. And you told me this very cute story. If you don't want to tell it, it's okay. But you told me about popsicles and teaching your son about popsicles and things. If you feel inclined, would you like to share that with us?
Yeah. Are you talking about how we looked at the grams of sugar and then how we
Yeah,
make them at
I
home?
thought it was the most adorable story.
Yeah. So just like any other kid, just like anybody, like he loves sugar, and we always pay attention that it's the right ingredients and stuff like that. And we go to like a healthy food store where they have non-colored or fake colored popsicles, and then he got some juices that were 1 gram of sugar and the rest is the actual real stevia. And then he got little suckers, like little lollipops, and he got those, and those were also 10 grams of sugar. And we were talking about sugar and how much is good, and I said, well, let's keep it at 25 grams a day. And so we were looking at the different things that we got, and I said, well, the sucker is 10 grams of sugar. You can have, like, that's equal to 10 of these juices. Like, which one would you rather have? And he was like, oh, I'm not going to get 10 grams of sugar. And so he went and like got the popsicles, and now he doesn't want those. And so I do teach him that. I'm using that to teach him math too. And so we're doing the 25 grams of sugar and then teaching him how to look at that. Because to me, the ingredients are really what matters, not the nutritional fact. But when it comes to sugar, it's an opportunity for him to learn, because like if we just look at the calories and we calculate everything in sugar, and believe me, when I had the binging thing, that's what I used to try to do. I was trying to make all my calories come from sugar. It just doesn't work that way. So, I also teach him things like you can't start a day with sugar. Like, let's have something else. Now, I treat fruit completely differently. I'm just going to be clear about that. And we use things like local honey and dates. And we're a sugar family, but we always find a healthy way to do it. So, yeah. And now we make popsicles at home. We squeeze our own orange juice and get some chia seeds in there, and he helps me with the process. And then we bought these silicone popsicle
Oh,
thingies.
I have those. I love them. They're so
Yeah,
great.
yeah, they're awesome. And he's like, "Can I have another one? Can I?" I'm like, "That's orange juice with chia seeds. Go right ahead, baby."
I think that's the most adorable thing to teach your son. I mean, when he's learning math, he's learning about health, and he feels empowered to make his own decisions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we also use an example of, he and his dad. If it wasn't for my husband, my kid would still never have anything processed, I think. But it's good because the real world is out there, right? I have to understand that too. And so he wanted another juice and another little chocolate, and we make chocolate at home too. But it's the whole experience thing, right? So he got a little, I think it was a Hershey's bar, and some juice. I don't remember what it was. And I turned both, and I was like, okay, this is 50 grams of sugar in these two little things. Like, this is what people consider a snack. So we use that as an example to go, this was 50. This is what you want to do in 2 days. And it was just a little juice and a little chocolate bar. And I made a video on that because I think a big part of it is people don't pay attention to stuff like that. And they have no idea that the kid just had a snack that was 50 grams of sugar. And then they have another one like that in a day. That's 100 grams of sugar of just snacking, just snacks.
Or if you don't pay attention, some of those chocolate bars and juices actually say they're 2 servings. If people don't actually read the back of it, because they think because it's one bottle that it's 1 serving. But if you actually read the back, some of those juices say 2 servings, or the chocolate bar says 2 servings on it. So the calories you're reading are for 1 serving, not two.
Yes, and they that's what they use to lower those numbers. Like I saw, I think it was a Gatorade that I saw years ago, and they said 2.5 servings. And I'm like, like and a half? Like they just don't want people to do the math on how many calories that is. But to me, again, it's not about the calories per se, it's about the sugar content versus fiber and then the overall ingredients because it's the ingredients that really affect us differently.
So today, like, if anyone was thinking, like, I want to take a step forward today, I want to take a step in the right direction to change my mindset to maybe not give up on my goals because it's February. This is the time when people give up on those new health goals for the year and everything. Do you think maybe what's one small step somebody could take?
So it always needs to be a small step, right? Like the body and the mind don't like things drastic in general because it takes a lot of inner work. We can be motivated for a day, but not tomorrow because it's like an emotion that comes and goes. It has to be a small step. It has to be commitment. And another trick they can do is not set goals of like, I want to lose a certain amount of weight, but set an action step. So instead of a goal being a weight or body image goal, my goal is to work out 3 times a week for 10 minutes. And I'm committed to that. And I'm putting that on my schedule. I start my clients off with literally 10 squats a day because there's not much your brain can do to talk you out of doing 10 squats a day. But there's a lot that your brain can do to talk you out of going to the gym and getting the new cute outfit and having the right shoes. And there's too many germs there and parking. There's too much. But when it comes to 10 squats or 5 minute, whatever, yoga, plank, whatever, the brain cannot talk me out of that. I cannot come up with an excuse that's believable enough for myself. So something really, really small that a person can commit to. When my clients set a goal, I ask them, can you do this indefinitely? If the answer is, oh, I don't know, right? Like I want to work out for an hour every day, 5 days a week, 5 days a week. Can you do that indefinitely? Oh, I don't know. Things can come up. Okay, too much of a go. Can I commit to 10 minutes 3 times a week? Yeah, that's totally doable. Okay, great. Now let's schedule that time as well. Because when we schedule a goal, we're excited. We're like, when we set a goal, we're excited. We are like, I'm doing it. But the brain's going to forget in 2 days what you told yourself that you're going to do because your brain's going over off of who he was a few days ago and it didn't catch up yet to that. And it's also trying to keep you in the same. The brain doesn't like a change. So starting really small with 5 minute yoga or 10-minute workout 3 times a week or 10 squats a day, that naturally then leads to 10 squats and a plank. And I'm going to try a push up and I'm going to do this. And then let me use the stairs instead of the elevator. And you start raising your awareness to where you can incorporate that movement. So it has to be doable. You have to commit to an action and you should be able to do it indefinitely. Even though things may come up, I can do 10 minutes 3 times a week.
Julie, what would make you like inspired? Like, how do you commit to moving your body every day?
I actually am so impressed with everything that Lex was saying about the mentality and like where to go with it. Because I mean, I'm a busy mom, so it's like I don't always have time to do those things. But I think
Right.
that really Lex's message is just to be gentle with yourself. Understand that you can making a commitment to yourself and making a commitment to fitness doesn't mean that you have to do it for an hour a day. It means ease
Mhm.
in and do what makes sense for you too. Um, I tend to move my body the most. I have a Peloton, so I try to hop on it every morning if I can. It just kind of mentally brings me to a place where I can just kind of like focus and do that. But I mean, I'm also a total girl where like I don't like to get my hair all like sweaty and gross and have to redo it. So once I reconcile with that, I'm good to do. I know Ashley, I know you like to take walks. What else do you do for yourself?
So I am definitely, I like to be outside. So even in the cold, I will still take a walk and things as long as it's not like below zero, which sometimes here in New England it is. I like to do a walk or maybe some gentle yoga. I'll commit to like 10 minutes, like Lex said, a day of doing. I'll find some yoga video of some of my favorite instructors and do that just to move my body. But my job is physical. I'm on my feet all day long and moving because I'm cooking for people and doing things like that. So I'm always up and moving. I'm not great at the sitting still. I only sit still when my body makes me.
I took
So
a Leks on a walk yesterday. My dog got loose, and there was, I mean, just to Lex give you a picture, we have like feet of snow like everywhere outside right now. And he like jumped over a snowbank, and I was like, how is it? And then, of course, I'm like in my pajamas. It was just like, it was a total mess. So, but when I got back inside, I was like, man, I am out of shape. I'm like, from like running in the snow to catch his dog. And he was as happy as could be. So, I think that there's a lot of instinctual messages there that if you give a dog a chance to run, he's going to go. So why wouldn't we run too?
Let a dog be your trainer.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it has to be doable. This is why my workouts are generally 15 minutes. Like when I have them in my membership, I have 15-minute workouts. I also started doing Monday evening, 7 Eastern time, a 15-minute or less workout on Facebook. Like I literally go on my Facebook profile. That I open to the world because I'm like, let's just move. Because we don't always find time for ourselves, and as moms too, right? And there was a time when we were living in a different place and there was no gym on site, and that's how I started doing them at home with minimal equipment, because I thought, okay, this is how others feel. With my values, I don't want to spend 2 hours now having to go to the gym and work out. Even though I love the gym, it doesn't align with me. I like to spend time with my kid more. So what I did is I started doing these 10 to 15 minute, hardcore workouts that you're like, oh my God, like this is it. And I also use any opportunity with my kid to run around, right? Like, so he loves playing tag, and we go outside and we start playing tag, and it's literally like running sprints. So, finding, again, it's really, again, how I view that. If I say, I just don't have time, I'm not going to have time. But if I go, how could I make this a fun thing? Right now, I'm with my kid and we're doing something fun. And so if we take just that, like these bits and pieces, that makes all the difference. Because that run with your dog, that was your workout. Like that was plenty to say about that workout.
And quite a workout it was. I'm glad that there was a random midden that was left on a field that he got really interested in, and I was able to catch up with him because it was. I got back inside and I was like, did anybody see me running through the snow like a total idiot? No one did, but it was one of those moments too. And yeah, it's crazy. But I would love to hear more about like nutrition and like what do you eat every day? Like what do you make sure to do to nourish your body to be kind as well? In that element.
I really like, and I don't like the word fasting, because when we say fasting, that like makes us think not eating. I call it cyclical nourishment because I'm nourishing my body in cycles. My approach to my clients is finding what works for them with their schedule and maybe testing it out. But I've seen that a form of fasting works for most people, where the most common thing people tell me is, I'm just not hungry in the morning. And I'll tell them, then don't eat in the morning. So they start a fasting protocol without really knowing that was fasting, because they just simply started listening to their bodies as to when are they hungry. See, our bodies tell us, you're thirsty, you're hungry, you know it. But since we were children, we had to eat before school, and then we had to eat at lunch, and then we were told when the dinner is, right? Like that's how I grew up. It was like, you don't question if you're hungry or not. You have to eat now. So we start losing this connection with our bodies as to when should I really eat? Because I have to eat now because I won't have time later. But that's not how our body wants to operate. So when people come to me like, when should I eat? I go, well, when are you hungry? And typically they go, I'm just not really hungry like in the morning. Okay, let's not eat in the morning. And let's see how that goes. So it's not a set of rules. It's about, how do I listen to my body and my body's needs? Because I actually need to eat around 10 o'clock in the morning. That's when I get the most hungry. But for me, if I eat a bigger meal then, I'm not hungry for the rest of the day. I may just have a snack later on. And so generally, what I call, again, cyclical nourishment, which is a form of fasting, is my approach to it. Because a gentle approach, again, nothing extreme. So if now I don't eat breakfast, now I'm already eating in a certain amount of time from, let's say, noon till, let's say, 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. So my body now has time to fast the whole time I'm sleeping and the whole morning that I'm running around, maybe have coffee or something like that. Some people, again, that doesn't work for them in their lifestyle. For example, what was hard for me is eating in the morning, and then my family wants to order food or cook something or whatever, and then there's a dinner. And I'm like, I ate already. I'm not really hungry now. So we have to look into these things too, because food is a bonding experience for us and the people that are around us, right? Like for, I don't know, thousands, millions of years, people used to gather around fire, share food and share stories. So it's a really interesting bonding time for ourselves and the people around us. So it needs to be maintained. This is, again, why people, when they're dieting, they feel so separate from everybody else because everybody's eating something else. And here I am eating my chicken breast and asparagus, right? And I feel so deprived and I'm actually not connecting with them either. So that's one thing. The second thing is looking again into small tweaks, right? Like how many servings of veggies do we eat per week? And how can we intentionally add 2 more servings this week, right? What are some recipes that I can try that are on the go? Because again, I'm a mom. I love nutrition. I love to enjoy my food, but I don't like to spend too much time in the kitchen. So a lot of my recipes are made in the food processor. I'm like, how do I put this together? Let the machine do its thing. And here we are. We have our desserts or soup or whatever it is. And so I try to find really simple ways, like using the oven, using the Instant Pot, using things like that for people who don't really want to spend too much time cooking. And then I've had some clients who are like, you know what, I really actually like cooking. I just didn't find time for it. So then we organize around that. Like, how can you find time when you don't feel like you're wasting your time? Maybe you involve your family in it, which is a big thing. Maybe you're watching, a show like this while you're cooking, and that way you don't feel like you're just cooking by yourself.
I like that sentiment that you have. So, how have all your struggles, like with fitness and food, how has that helped your personal well-being influence the way you train your clients?
The starting small approach, right? When I started fitness, it was like, hey, come to the workout 3-4 times a week. This needs to be an hour workout thing. And again, I was in my 20s, you have all the time in the world to, try to work on you. And that used to be my approach. And then when it came to nutrition, when people would go, oh, give me a meal plan. I was like, all right, well, here's a meal plan. But then they would go back to the way they were eating before. And I was like, okay, this dieting thing is not working. We just need to find a way to do this long term. And so what I started doing is started to experiment with different things when my schedule would shift, and then started experimenting with my clients and going, okay, what's your schedule like? What's your sleep like? What's your family life like? What is your goal? And how can we now fit those together? Because again, the psychology of it is I have to start believing that I can, and then slowly build off of that.
Now, I was checking some of your stuff, and I saw that you do something that I find very interesting. It's something people don't talk about a lot. You do biohacking and neurohacking. Can you explain to the audience what that is, and how do you use it effectively for your clients and for yourself?
In really simple terms, biohacking means reversing aging or slowing down aging or anti-aging. Although I don't like the term anti-aging because it's like I just think of like commercials for like cosmetics. We want to make our body function at the optimal level possible, no matter what age we are. And what I've noticed 9.9 times out of 10, when we believe that the body's going to slow down after 30, 40, 50, 60, because we hear things like that all the time, we start believing that, then the body does that. Now, does the body change? Yes, but it cannot change. This is what I find funny. People will say, oh, once I hit 30, things change. Once I hit 40, things change. And once I hit 50, I'm like, your body doesn't really know it's like the zero at the end of it, right? Like that, right? Like, so there's this concept of like the body changing every 7 years or so. So it's like, what was it at 30? Well, it's the things that I kept hearing about 30s. What was it at the 40? Well, it's most of the things that I kept hearing about 40s. Now, yes, there's a balance to that. I hear people also say like, oh, once I hit 40, my metabolism slowed down and I can't eat all the processed food like I used to. I'm like, well, that's actually just your body catching up with you for 20 years of eating that kind of food, right? It's not necessarily that the body's doing much different because our cells are made out of what we eat, right? Like we are literally what we eat. And so that's one thing. And then neurohacking is the same thing with the brain, not only keeping it young, but also rejuvenating and reestablishing new brain cells, basically. Because up until maybe 20, 30 years ago, they didn't know that the brain cells can regrow. They didn't know. They're like, well, you have a brain, and then it just slowly starts dying out. And then that turns out not to be true, because you can totally regenerate your brain, and your brain can learn things and relearn and do amazing things when they have a need for it, right? So people who don't, like, I remember 30 years ago, 20 years ago, I watched this interview with a guy who was born without his arms. And so he learned to use his legs for everything. So when they scanned his brain, the part of the brain that for people with all the limbs is for leg movement was really tiny, because we don't really use our feet and legs for that much as we use our hands. Where for him, that part of his brain was huge, because the brain had a need to develop in that part, right? So neuroplasticity is that ability of our brain to kind of rejuvenate and reinnovate itself. And it only does that when it has a need for it. So we have to actively have ways of challenging our brain.
My neurologist has talked about that because I have MS. For those of you that don't know, that my neurologist has talked about how, like, because I have lesions in my brain, that my brain will eventually rewire itself to get around what's in there and to like work around it. Can't predict how it's going to do things, but I don't know if there's a way to do that. But I find it interesting that it creates new neural pathways.
All the time. So every new thought is actually a new neural pathway. But the problem is it's really thin and not strong enough. So unless we reinforce that thought over and over again, it's not going to stay there. And the way you can visualize that is, think of a prairie, right? Like there's just grassy area, and you want to go from point A to point B, and you go there through the grass. Over time, there's just going to be dirt. There's not going to be grass there. That's going to be your path, right? Now, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, you want to change that path, and you're like, well, let me go left this time. And your brain is kind of wanting to say, let's just go back to this path. It's easier. And you go, no, we're going to redirect this way. So sometimes you still may go back and forth. This is that inner struggle of thoughts. I want to have a better thought. And we struggle. We're like, oh, which ones? But then over time, if I keep pushing for the new pathway, because in the beginning, that new pathway is hard. Like there's still grass. I have to step over the grass. It's still challenging. It would be way easier to just go on that dirt road. But if I keep doing this on the new pathway, over time, there will be no grass, and that will become the new dirt road, right? So it depends on what you read. Some people say the old one never really truly dies. And I believe that, because if it's been wired in us, especially in our childhood, it probably is always there. It just gets so weakened that now I'm using the new pathway all the time. So every thought is like that, I just stepped on the grass. It just went down, I stepped on it. But if I don't reinforce that, that grass is going to go right back up, and it's going to be like it wasn't there. This is why, like the 7-day mental diet or things that we talk about in my membership all the time, or coaching, is that reinforcing the positive things that we want, that are true to us, right? Like they don't seem like lies to us. That's why I'm really careful with affirmations, because they need to be believable to us. They can't just be like these things that sound like a lie to us. So, for example, someone who wants to, let's say, lose weight, one of the affirmations that, they're told to have is say, I am, and then say what you want. And they can say, I'm skinny, I'm skinny. Well, when I say that and I know I need to lose some weight, my brain's like, no, you're like, that's a lie, right? And it actually tends to have the completely different effect. But if I say something like, I'm getting healthier and healthier every day, that's totally believable to me, because I'm working on me. And now that statement makes me feel better, because I am getting healthier. I'm working on myself. I'm getting healthier every day. And that now creates that snowball effect to now get to where I want. And I can get to the level where I say, I really love and appreciate myself. It's a journey. So it has to be believable for us.
I've learned so much talking to you in the last hour or so. Before our final thoughts with you, Julie, do you have any last questions for her?
No, I was going to say we would love to hear your final thoughts. What do you want to leave our audience with? This is your time to really just give whatever message that you'd like. So we'd love to hear what you'd like to do in closing.
Yeah, I think that the if you take anything out of this is changing the way you talk to yourself. Like that's the core foundation of everything. And starting to appreciate and love yourself and treat yourself with kindness, because if you become your own best friend, you will pretty much become unstoppable. And then, if anybody wants to check me out, I'm on all social media. It's my name at Leks Vucko, Leksvucko. I love to connect with people. I also have the show on E16, so come join me. It's called Feeling at a 10. And again, it's all about feeling at a 10. And yeah, my membership, I'm available everywhere. So if you have a question, if you want to check out my membership, check out Leks.pro. I really try to make myself available to answer any questions people have.
Leks, thank you so much for coming on. I love talking to you, and I could probably talk to you for hours about food and nutrition and exercise. We could probably spend a whole day talking about all this stuff. You have a fabulous day. I enjoyed having you, and you are welcome back anytime.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye. All right. Julie is going to be in the kitchen cooking up a recipe. Since it is February, we are doing everything with chocolate, pink, red foods. Make sure you tune in right after these messages.
I'm Gary.
And I'm Gina.
And we're the hosts on Fire Line Talk. So join us every Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Positive vibrations right here on E360 TV.
And we are back. Julie,
Yes.
all set with your recipe for us?
I am all set. I am doing everything from my stovetop today because I am making a low-carb toffee. And the base of the toffee is going to just be a cup of butter. So basically just 2 sticks of butter and half a cup of sugar. So I'm just going to stir those up and melt them together. And that is what is going to start my toffee. So I'm just using a sugar substitute, which will go in here.
I have a question. What's the difference between toffee and caramel?
I honestly have no idea. Do you know the answer to that?
No, that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, no, I have no idea. What did you say, toffee and caramel?
Yeah, what's the difference? I don't actually know because I actually don't really like caramel.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the difference of the two is. But everything's going to caramelize together in it. I know caramel, I think, is actually evaporated milk. And that's just it stirred over and over and over again. That's what I was told.
I know there's different ways to actually make caramel. I've made it a few different ways, and not all of them involve milk, actually.
Oh, how else have you made it?
No. Well, some of them just involve starting with sugar and water, and then they do like baking soda and a little bit of butter at the end. So sometimes it's different. So I wonder exactly how people do it. That's why I'm wondering.
Yeah, I honestly don't know the answer to that. But I am going to also be using these chocolate chips, which I think are going to be actually approved. They're made of monk fruit and I don't know how to say it, the erythritol sweetens on here, and they're keto.
Xylitol?
It's erythritol.
I can't do that. So
There we go.
I don't know. I
don't know how that works. Anyway, these are keto, paleo. The only ingredients that are in here is chocolate liqueur, tapioca, cocoa butter, sunflower, natural flavors, and monk fruit extract. So we'll see how these taste. I'm
always a big fan of the Hue Kitchen chocolate. Those are my favorite. It's no secret. I love them forever and for everything and anything. They make the best chocolate ever.
My little is a big fan of the Godiva. That's what she likes to make all of her cookies and everything with. But the key with this toffee is that you really can't have too much sugar in it because, it's a dessert, so it's can never be too much, in there. So it calls for a half cup, but I like to put a little bit more in, just
oh dear,
caramelize it a little bit more. And then yes, I'm just going to stir this for a while. It's just going to take a second for it all to go together. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this mixture, stick it in this pan, cover it with chocolate chips, the chocolate chips are going to melt on top of the butter, and then it's going to fossilize and be cold and easy to eat. So this is literally the easiest recipe. It's like butter.
Fossilize? I don't know if that sounds like something like. What do you mean by fossilize? Like, does it get like hard and crackly, or does it get like? What picture are we looking for, I should say?
So I'm going to post a picture on this later after it cools off, but I have a recipe right now on my blog called Christmas Crack, and the way that I make my Christmas Crack is it's saltine crackers with this butter mixture on top of it, and then chocolate chips, and everything just kind of melts together. So I'm doing the exact same thing with this one. It's just I'm not using any sort of cracker or anything with it. So this is going to fossilize. It's going to taste so good when it's done. So
is it going to be hard or soft?
It's going to be a hard candy. So it can just be laid out later. I also have this pink frosting that's going to go on top of it, and then white sprinkles. So that way it's going to look nice and festive-y and Valentine's Day-ish. So it ends up being a hard one that you can carry with you anytime, but also it is low carb, which is nice. Also, it's a little guilt-free, I think, eating this dessert than something that might have more carbs in it. So all right, this is going to fossilize in here, and I'm going to throw it in my cast iron pan.
Okay.
Toss it with it.
Can we, for TV's sake, can we move it along? Because we only have a few more seconds.
Absolutely. So I'm going to stick this right in here. It's pouring out. And then it's going to get covered with chocolate chips. Or monk fruit.
Which is my favorite part. The chocolate.
Yeah, whatever these are. Monk fruit. And so this is just like, it's just literally like hot water or hot butter in a pan. And then these are going to filter all on the top. They're going to melt.
Does it go in the oven now?
So yes, then these actually don't even need to go into the oven because the temperature of the butter is so warm that it's going to melt the chocolate on top of it. And then it just has to cool. So I'm going to take a little spatula knife like this and just rub it on top. I'll pop this up so you can see it.
Okay.
So pops
up. Oh, wow. That looks like chocolatey goodness right there.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm just going to melt. So yeah, just kind of mix it all together. And then I'm going to wait for it to cool. And then I'm going to cover it with the frosting and the sprinkles, and then we're good to go. And then that's literally all you do to make this toffee. You can add in like a cookie or a cracker or something, but I just mix it all together so it gets all chocolatey in here. It's going to be nice and cool. And then it's going to form like a bark. So later today I will have it.
To see what it looks like.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Everyone, thank you for joining us this week, and we can't wait to see you next week. Tune in some more with some of our guests for the month, which check out our Instagram. You'll be seeing everyone that is coming up. And everyone, have a good week.
Yes, happy